Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I am your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 111, recording on Wednesday morning, September 10th. A couple days, mere less than 48 hours after the spectacle that was on Monday night in Chicago at Soldier Field. Unbelievable night. Just going to start with that. It was insane being in the press box and in that building for that. Probably just as insane watch for you guys, whether you were there or watching on TV. And we will get into everything. J.J. McCarthy's performance, the defensive showcase against Caleb Williams, Jordan Mason, Blake Cashman's hamstring, really anything and everything we're going to hit here on episode 111 of the Alec Lewis Show. As always, if you're here on YouTube for the first time, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, rate and review. That stuff helps us out. This show is presented by First Resource Bank. If you don't know about it, you really should. It's a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area. They have branches everywhere, and it's run by Vikings fans. Tim Siegley, Aaron Siegley, Charlie Anderson, really, really good people who care about this community. They attend games. If you want a branch with people who want to talk about your team, First Resource Bank is the branch to go. Their information is in the description below. Stories all over the place at The Athletic, where I do my day job covering this team. That is why I am here early in the Vikings facility getting ready for the lead up to the Falcons game, which we will talk a little bit about dispersed through this conversation. I like to record, at this time of the week because it'll allow me to watch the film. It's allowed me to look at a lot of the advanced metrics and have a really good, precise. It just allowed me to talk to people inside the building after the game, and it gives me as good of a feel as I have to be able to give you guys as high level of analysis as I can. So here we go. We'll start with just the atmosphere. I mean, that was nuts. The national anthem, I believe the guy's Danielson or something. He does hockey. I mean, that was, I don't know, my heart was pumping out of my chest through that. And then the Vikings get the ball first, and you guys know how things went from there. I mean, it was that first third down of the game. You had the Bears cornerback floating across the line of scrimmage, responding to a Vikings motion, which makes it look like man coverage to J.J. McCarthy. And then what was it? They dropped into this three-high, cover three zone, matching to receivers. That was very unexpected from what Dennis Allen, the Bears defensive coordinator, had really shown, in a long time. And so you can understand why J.J. McCarthy is a little flustered in the pocket, and then got tackled before the first down. So that was how things started. And then Caleb Williams, works some of the magic that he works down the field, evading guys like Jonathan Grenard, and Andrew Van Ginkel and Javon Hargrave. These guys do not, miss tackles. They corral most. And at that point, after the Bears go down and score, it's like you guys know this. This is the heavyweight punch to the gut of what was such a highly anticipated evening. And then the second third down of the game for J.J. McCarthy, Justin Jefferson the motion was not timed that well into this bunch set on the left side. He's kind of pressed and jammed at the line of scrimmage. It affects the timing of everything. The Bears are lining up defenders and dropping guys out. And so JJ's trying to decipher everything with the crowd noise and with the lack of rhythm and timing in the passing game. And so it was 2 3 and outs, and it was a rough start. Now, I will say, because I'm starting this conversation with JJ McCarthy, like when you go back and watch the film, it's not as if he's making a ton of really sketchy reads early on. And that is one very clear positive to me. You worry for a quarterback in their first game in that environment with a defense that was as multiple in their looks as the Bears and Dennis Allen were. You worry that the quarterback is going to be accelerated mentally to a point at which they don't know where to put their eyes. They're not, moving their feet and eyes at the correct time. They're making decisions, throwing the football into tight windows with multiple defenders, at which turnovers the most important stat to winning then become an issue. And J.J. McCarthy was really not doing that. And so that was early on as the team and as the offense was absorbing the uppercut to the chin. I mean, that was one thing that you could kind of hang your hat on. Now, the issues early on that really jumped out to me offensively that were concerning was just the lack of a run game, the lack of efficiency in the run game at a level that you knew, as I've talked about in this podcast, and as I've written, you guys have heard me say this and write this probably many times over the last 2 months. You knew that the run game for this team and that the front seven of this team were going to have to be the scaffolding as this season got underway, as J.J. McCarthy was tasked with finding its footing. And so for the front seven not to get home or be able to corral Caleb Williams, and then for the run game not to be efficient and potentially explosive early on, those were the alarm bells for me of like, let's see what this night ends up being. The other aspect that was apparent in real time, you guys watching would probably be like, yeah, we noticed this pretty quickly. But from the press box, I'm not sure if after watching the film, I put enough stock or enough weight into Justin School being the starting left tackle, filling in for Christian Darrisaw, who, went through a pretty rigorous and intensive workout on the field before the game with Chris Cooper, the own line coach, and with one of the trainers. And it felt like, it was a pretty close call for Christian Darrisaw, but the Vikings eventually, as they usually do with guys working their way back from long-term injury designations and long-term rehabs, regardless of how well they attack it. And Christian Darrisaw, by all accounts, has done just a phenomenal job from the get-go in the way he's approached this thing. Typically, the Vikings training staff, and in my opinion, smartly, takes the long-term view at this thing. So Justin School, and for those who don't know much about Justin School, he played last year for the Tampa Bay Bucks and filled in at tackle with some injuries down there. He was pretty good throughout the year, at least by, just a little bit of the naked eye. Now, he was better probably as a right tackle fill-in than he was, understandably, at left tackle for the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Vikings signed him as their swing tackle to replace David Quessenberry. And watching the film was the only, and I had a buddy text me this, so I'm going to give him the credit. He's like, it had me wishing a little bit for David Quessenberry. And in the moment, and watching the film back, Justin School's inability to pass protect and hold up one-on-one was a factor early in that game to kind of the muddiness of the offense. And also, his blocking in the run game, whether it was an inability to push vertically from a double team perspective on duo vertical run where the running back has to press vertical and then bounce out, or whether it was, zone runs where Justin School is tasked with cutting off the backside. It was a struggle. Like, it just absolutely was a struggle. And it was a clear and obvious portion and component of why the offense was as muddy as it was. And then you had, mentioned Justin Jefferson getting pressed at the line of scrimmage and slipping on routes. You had, the out route in the red zone where, yes, the ball that J.J. McCarthy threw to him was a little bit low, but that's a catch you probably expect Justin to make. And then if you make that catch, do you go for it on fourth? Do you punch it in? Do you establish momentum early in the game? They weren't able to do that. You had the Adam Thielen drop on the third down. There were multiple pass plays where you felt like, man, if JJ just had one more tick, and typically it was Justin School on the left side getting beat, where it's like maybe he finds Jalen Naylor on a go ball down the left sideline. So like the situation around JJ just wasn't, it didn't rise to the level at which you felt like it needed to rise for him to find his footing early on. And that's why, more than anything else, in my opinion, it was as much of a slog as it was early on. Now, I mean, the second half, and it's funny, I say the second half, but really the third quarter was, I mean, obviously the pick six was, I mean, that was jarring. You're sitting there, I mean, that was really like you're knocked down on the canvas type of moment where Nashawn Wright, this guy that the Vikings acquired in a trade for Andrew Booth Jr., which is just a double, feel like you got an oblique strain even saying that. I mean, the fact that guy read that out route as well as he did, I mean, going back to the film, it's not the worst throw in the world. Could it have been placed a little further out? Yes. Could JJ have probably taken another click and found Jalen Naylor screaming on a double move for what would have been a would-be touchdown had JJ McCarthy held it another click? Like, yes, he could have, but pre-snap, he checks into the perfect protection. It's a full slide. They block it up well. The Bears try to bring everybody. And JJ tries an outcut to the field. Now, there may have been a little miscommunication, be it from JJ's footwork to the timing of Justin's route. Like, could Justin have broken it off quicker, or should JJ have taken deeper footwork? There was a little bit of like a hiccup there, a little hitch in the giddy up of what that was probably supposed to be. That was curious, but I really didn't think it was the worst decision throw in the world. And for me, like, one of the things I want to underscore is even on film, you can see Kevin O'Connell's reaction. He doesn't throw his hands up. He's not bending over it was pretty. He stood stone faced. He stood firm. JJ comes to the sideline. His facial expression is pretty neutral. And that is like a component of coaching, of play call to quarterback relationship that to me just cannot go underplayed or undersold in terms of the value of not overreacting or displaying a sense of just skepticism or disbelief that the player can ultimately feel. Like, I thought that moment and the way Kevin O'Connell handled just the reaction to that was so crucial to what ended up happening. And you guys know that at the beginning of the fourth quarter, I mean, that was the line of demarcation. It was really like, I mean, BC, AD, I mean, it was before fourth quarter, after fourth quarter. That's what it was. The Vikings, it should be noted, their first two plays in the first quarter were Jordan Mason runs. Two very efficient, very impressive runs. The second one, Jordan Mason, like, there's some chaos going on behind the line of scrimmage, and he I mean, it's a two cut, bounce it outside, break a tackle, spin up the middle of the field, just an exceptional run, the type of run that you envision when you acquire that guy from the San Francisco 49ers and then pay him like they did. Like, that moment, though, that specific type of run, that is why that happened. And then it really felt like JJ McCarthy was dialed in. I mean, the two throws of the night, unquestionably, the best throw, in my opinion, was this out route to Justin Jefferson, where JJ McCarthy on this deep play action hangs in, gets clocked, and throws with anticipation to Justin Jefferson on the sideline. And it is an explosive gain, perfect throw in the face of pressure. Just the quintessential toughness you want to see from the quarterback, and enough arm strength to get it out there with the guy in his face. That was very notable to me, and I'm going to get back to that in a second. And then the other impressive throw for me was the touchdown throw to Justin Jefferson to bury that ball in the red zone. I think, and the film would verify it or not, but I think I think JJ used his eyes and his vision to deke the player running with Jalen Naylor, and then came back and progressed and threw perfect ball location low with an absolute laser to Justin for that touchdown was just highly impressive. But I mentioned this on the first impressive throw. The toughness of JJ, you could talk about mental fortitude, and we should and we will. And that was a just characteristic, trademark showcase of that all night. But the toughness in the pocket to take hits in his first real game back from tearing his meniscus and undergoing surgery. And there was a play early in the first half, I believe, where, he got hit low, he got hit high, his body's, twisted sideways, and he just bounces right up. Like the toughness in the pocket, the willingness to stand in, that stuff was very apparent on film. And I don't make this comparison, but like oftentimes you would watch the Kirk Cousins film and be like, for lack of a better term, like he's going to get himself killed standing in some of these hits. And J.J. McCarthy was doing that, and that stuff is evident on tape to the offensive linemen who protect for him, to his teammates. And you best believe, beyond establishing belief internally with the fight that he showed and the fortitude in the second half, when they go back in the film room and in their specific meeting rooms on the 2 floors above where I'm sitting right now, and these guys go through the tape and they watch some of the throws he's making as he's getting hit and his willingness to stand in there, like that means a lot to people internally and should not go underplayed as this thing moves forward. And the zone read run was just a perfect play call. The detail was phenomenal. TJ Hockenson takes a step and arc blocks perfectly and then makes an incredible block on Jaquan Brisker on the edge. J.J. McCarthy with a great pull, and then the reaction to that on the sideline. And this is what I wrote my story about after the game and really centered it on. Like, you do not see reactions like that to touchdowns in week 1. Yes, there's joy everywhere. You guys know this. It's, everyone's excited. It's like the first day of school, and any touchdown is going to be celebrated to an immense degree. But it was the entire sideline. It was Kevin O'Connell looking into the camera. It was, JJ comes to the sideline and he's getting chest bumps from Terrell, the equipment guy, from Dan Ridnour, the sports science guy, from nutritionist, from Michael Juergens, the backup center. It was an all hands on deck celebration for what was a culmination of, really like what J.J. McCarthy's about. And so it was just to watch that from above and watch the sideline flow to this guy and react the way they did was probably something I'm not going to forget. And I wrote this in the story. Like, it was almost an action of, or an act of like the coronation of this guy's arrival. Not to say that he's now going to be this, or that he's destined for this. But it was, if anything, it was like an appreciation for the road that JJ has been on. And it has not been an easy road. Rehab from any injury is difficult, but when you are picked to be the guy, and all you've been really going back to high school is the guy, and now you're no longer the guy for a season, that takes a mental toll no matter who you are, no matter how strong you are. And you can be supportive and you can be in the building and you can meet with Kevin O'Connell. But again, like that stuff can weigh on a person, on a player. And so to see him celebrated after that was it was just really, really freaking cool. To segue a bit, one of the things the Vikings did in the fourth quarter that was incredibly effective was they utilized 12 personnel, which for the uninitiated, that's 2 tight ends on the field, 2 receivers, 1 running back. Josh Oliver and TJ Hockenson, those 2 guys, TJ Hockenson blocked his ass off, I thought, in the game. Like his skill set is what it is. He's a pass catching guy who can run option routes, who at his best is a physical catch point guy down the field. It's going to be incumbent upon him to show that consistently, but he blocked his butt off in the game. And then in that 12 personnel look, which they ran like 22% of snaps in the game, they ran for 7.3 yards per carry out of that look. And that was massive to just be able to get big and mow people over and bulldoze the defense. That is not nothing. I also give the Vikings a ton of credit for going out of the ordinary and utilizing 13 personnel, which is 3 tight ends on the field, with Ben Urasek, the undrafted rookie, that they signed after the draft, who played at Stanford, who played at Georgia. They go 3 tight ends, and they were doing a lot out of that look. One time they came out with 3 tight ends, and then J.J. McCarthy shifts to empty formation where it's now like shotgun pass play, and that was one of the that was the early flag down the field on the throw to Aaron Jones. That was out of a 13 personnel look, spread to empty, which is just very creative by the Vikings staff. And then late in the second half, like they went back to that 13 personnel. And so, like, beyond what it did for them in that game, now you have the Atlanta Falcons defense and their staff. They have to prepare now for what type of personnel do we have out there in against 13? What could they do out of 13? So beyond just like the challenge of the matchups player to player, you now have another schematic layer that opponents in the future are going to have to keep in their mind. So thought that was a creative. And then the Aaron Jones touchdown pass from J.J. McCarthy, and the design of that. You've seen this. Dan Orlovsky had it on NFL Live. Dan Casey, who's just incredible on social media in terms of offensive play calling and design analysis. Both of those guys highlighted this play. But, I mean, to have Jalen Naylor clear out the safety, to have TJ Hawkinson clear out the linebacker, and then to have Aaron Jones, a running back, run a go ball kind of fake choice route. The design was just incredible. And I will tell you this, going into the game, the Vikings felt pretty good about Aaron Jones in the passing game. And so to have the visions of it and to see it come to fruition, I mean, that is why you have Kevin O'Connell respected as a play caller and designer the way that he is throughout the league. Now, there is a lot to clean up. Specific to, I mean, there were a lot of short passes, bootlegs that just didn't generate a ton. Even the 2-point conversion attempt to Josh Oliver in the red zone, Josh goes in motion and the offensive line's pushed back. So Josh kind of gets tripped up. And so he can't get the right angle on that play. Just some of the detail specifically, the Vikings did a lot in that game of, they've got these bunch looks. So what do I mean by that? Imagine 3 pass catchers in like a triangle out wide pre-snap. And what the Vikings were doing a lot was motioning to that, where they've got 2 guys, one on the outside. If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing me with hands and trying to motion it. They'd motion a guy in and have a bunch right there and try to snap it right as the motion gets to that bunch. And there were a couple times where that snap point was a little bit off. So, you know, the crowd noise probably has something to do with that. The operation has probably something to do with that. Justin Jefferson couldn't catch that kind of crossing route, which definitely had some high heat on it by J.J. McCarthy, but that's a play that you'd expect Justin Jefferson probably to make. So there is a lot. I mean, Kevin O'Connell said after the game, there's 1,000 things for them to clean up. But there were a lot of elements there that if you're a person who listens to this podcast religiously, you come away thinking, okay, you plug in Christian Darrisaw and kind of plug a major leak on the line of scrimmage. Like, what does this thing start to look like, run game and pass game? Oh, and by the way, Jordan Addison will be back at some point and had the best training camp of any offensive player. Oh, by the way, Adam Thielen is probably going to have more, reps, role, responsibility as time goes on because he's back into an offense that has evolved a little bit since he was here. So, you got an offensive line beyond Justin School who, that was their first time really all together. Thought Donovan Jackson, for him to have the debut that he had, that was, very encouraging. In the run and pass. He held up against Grady Jarrett, and then he's also blocking on double teams and climbing up to second-level defenders effectively in the run game. So just a lot that makes you feel pretty I think you come away, obviously, if it's a loss and they don't respond, maybe this is disaster podcast format here, but hopefully that gives you a pretty good feel of how my brain was going looking at some of the numbers and watching the film afterwards, at least offensively. Gonna come back with a bunch more nuggets after a quick word from a sponsor here.
She's Jen, the ultimate Vikings fan.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the Vikings Jan Show Fan Show. My special guest today is Jared Allen. So, Jared, who you got for the Vikings game this week?
Minnesota Vikings.
Me too. So that's our show. We'd like to thank our sponsor, the Minnesota Lottery, who reminds you this could be your year. Play the new
Vikings
Scratch Game for a shot at $100,000, game tickets, and more. Minnesota Lottery. I'm in. Must be 18 or older to play.
All right, let's segue to the defense for a second. Brian Flores, the guy's always got something in the bag of tricks. You know this. You've listened to the podcast. You've read the stories over time. But, I mean, there was some stuff. Early on, it was pretty vanilla. I mean, not to his standards, vanilla, which is like cookie dough chocolate double fudge, because it's like Brian Flores, there's never vanilla with him in terms of the creativity. But like on third down, sometimes they were showing a 3 high safety look that you sometimes see in college, that you've seen a little bit with the Arizona Cardinals. And then they would have like 3 high safeties, 7 guys at the line of scrimmage, and like 1 cornerback. So if you're Caleb Williams and you're Ben Johnson looking at that picture, you're like, what the hell is this going to be? Is it 3 deep safeties? is one of them going to step up in a Tampa kind of zone coverage? Is it going to be 1 high? They're going to have 2 Robert. Like, they can really do anything out of that look. Are guys in line of scrimmage going to drop? Are they all going to rush? I mean, that was one creative look. And then they were also doing some stuff coverage-wise that was new. Like, if I looked at my True Media statistics, and we have like a little tab where it's like, what coverages did the team run in the game? And it's like cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, cover 6. Sometimes those can be deceiving because teams run different types of cover 2s, cover 4s. Is it palms cover 4, or is it just straight quarters? Or is it, and you guys are probably like, Alec, you're talking a different language. But really, I guess to keep it general and understandable, like, you can have certain cornerbacks drop in the same types of coverages and have them be reading receivers and where they're going in other coverages. And they were the Vikings were mixing in some different types of subsets of those coverages than I have seen Brian Flores mix in my time covering this team. I thought this was very interesting, this statistic. So if you go back to when Brian Flores first arrived in Minnesota, one of the interesting things that I look at is, in a game, what type of pressure is he calling? Is it 4-man pass rush? Is it 5-man pressures? Is it 6-man pressures where he's bringing a lot of heat? So if you look at all of the games that Brian Flores has coached as the Vikings defensive coordinator, the 2 times where he's run the fewest amount of 6-man pressures are against Caleb Williams. Last year, in the Week 15 game against Caleb, the Vikings did not run 1 6-man pressure, meaning they chose against Caleb not to heat him up at all. Why would they do this? For me, it's probably, why would you flush him from the pocket where he probably wants to be anyway? And so what was most interesting is, last year, they ran no 6-man pressures against Caleb in Week 15. This year, Week 1 was the second fewest amount of 6-man pressures they've ever run in a game, also against Caleb Williams, at 2.3%, according to True Media. And so for me, like that, again, like I just said, why would you do that? It's because you kind of want Caleb to be in the pocket, that first of all. Second of all, you probably feel more than ever, if you're Brian Flores, that you can get home with a 4 or 5-man rush, with Javon Hargrave now in the fold, with Jonathan Allen in the fold. Hargrave, by the way, I thought was great, was the guy that we saw all throughout training camp. He's at that size, the ability to move that way is jarring. Also, quick aside, thought Levi Drake and Jalen Redmond and even Terrion Ingram Dawkins had a pass deflection that was nice. Like, I thought all of those guys brought it. Early on, it felt a little like, they're not getting home enough. But in general, I really thought that group had a great night. But the point being, like, of Brian Flores, willingness not to bring the major heat, I thought that was notable. And then to throw that at Caleb and then to be mixing on the back end the way they were, it was pretty impressive. It showed a little bit of just more confidence, I feel like, in the cornerbacks to be able to run with receivers than Brian Flores has shown in the last couple of years, which is understandable. I thought Isaiah Rodgers had a pretty good game. I think there was one time where DeAndre Swift kind of ran him over, and in coverage, like, it probably wasn't totally perfect, but like there was even a play in the second half where Isaiah Rodgers is like a flat defender kind of out, near the line of scrimmage. And then he recognizes, Isaiah does, that Caleb is progressing to a more downfield row, and Isaiah Rodgers shifts and floats backwards. And if Caleb doesn't have the arm strength that he has, like, that potentially could have been an interception by Isaiah Rodgers. So I really thought he had a good game. Now, Jeff Okudah, we're going to have to see. He had there were some concussion-like symptoms kind of late in the game. I talked to him in the locker room after. He seemed with it. He was there, but there was a man coverage call in the first half where Zacchaeus kind of got open pretty easily. So we'll see about that third corner spot and what's possible there. If Jeff Okudah doesn't play, I mean, it's a fair question of what they do. Dwight McGlothern, I mean, that is a big spot to be put in. And then externally, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what the Vikings would try to do there. And could they be able to run and play some of these different coverages if they have an older guy like Stephon Gilmore? That's a question that I have. Also thought Eric Wilson, I mean, just like claps for that guy for the game that he played. And it wasn't just once Blake Cashman suffered the hamstring injury, which, I mean, we'll see. Kevin O'Connell talks shortly, and probably it didn't sound great. And so that would place even more onus on Eric Wilson to be what he was in that game. But it is funny because, like, you really step back for a second, and coordinators around the league talk all the time about, like, well, we didn't have that guy, so we couldn't do this. I mean, you really think about it, Brian Flores oftentimes, and this is not to knock these players, because I do think they've done a good job of evaluation and finding players who play better than where they've been picked or where they were before they got here. But, like, the defense at a time was Isaiah Rodgers, who just has been a journeyman guy, Jalen Redmond, picked up off the scrap heap, Jay Ward, later round pick who's never really played before, Eric Wilson, journeyman special teams guy for the most part. I mean, like, yes, Jonathan Grenard and Van Ginkel are amazing, and they were in the game as well. But, like, Brian Flores is doing a lot of this with not a ton of, like, high round, incredible athleticism, twitch, like, big time pedigree guys. And it's just, there's never any complaining. It's just, we're going to have a great game plan and scheme it up every single Sunday. And so it is kind of silly when you hear other coordinators sometimes, like, there are excuses or what have you for not having certain personnel. Like, that just never happens here, and they just make it work. But Eric Wilson is going to be massive. And especially like this upcoming week against the Falcons to stop Bijan in that run game, which got the Vikings last year, it should be noted. Like that is a key aspect. I also think Ryan Kelly's health is going to be critical moving forward. It looked like he was going into the training room a little bit after the game. So where is he? Like those are some of the questions I had. I mean, like the player, most underrated player in the game in terms of just impact, Miles Price. You guys know this. I have banged the drum, and I should say this and be pretty upfront about it. Like, I have been very critical of the personnel that they've provided the special teams unit for years, because I just feel like it's such a key part of winning these games on the margins. And they've had faith in Miles Price. they gave him that role as a punt returner, kick returner, and what he did with it backed up the faith that they provided him. So going to be huge. Will Riker, what he did cannot be understated. Not surprised by that guy. Been watching him kick for a long, long time at big games, and he usually shows up. But yeah, that's really where I'm at. This Falcons team, to look ahead a little bit, pretty interesting. I mean, Michael Penix as a downfield thrower can be pretty dynamic. I'm looking forward to doing more tape study this week. The question would be young quarterback against Brian Flores, typically leans Brian Flores. And then defensively, the Falcons are pretty interesting. They drafted the safety Xavier Watts from Notre Dame, who I really liked coming out and who seemed to have a really good week 1 game. They drafted James Pierce. They drafted the Georgia edge rusher as well. You know, how creative are they going to be with looks? They have Jesse Bates, who can be a real challenge on the back end. AJ Terrell is a pretty physical, good corner. It's going to be a pretty interesting matchup. But yeah, I mean, Brian Flores against a young quarterback, and then to have the home atmosphere at your back with JJ now having a game under his belt, and the Vikings having a game under their belt, and potentially having Christian Darrisaw back for that game, all would be so critical. But yeah, that's really, as I went through it, like that was just unloading the clip of what I kind of took away from Monday night. And it really was a spectacular game, atmosphere, flip of the script, whatever you want to say. Like, there was immense gratitude for me to even get to be there to do it. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how sweat-worthy these games are going to be throughout the season. You hope that not all of them are going to, it's not going to be incumbent upon the defense to just hold it down for as long as they did and to then find life near the end. But that they did it in week 1 on the road in an NFC North game against the Bears with what they had the wind at their back after the beginning of the game, just exceptional. Very impressive. A testament to this staff that is heralded rightfully for being able to win these games. I laugh because it's like, oh, here they go with the one score thing again. Like, let me tell you guys something. If you watch the NFL, typically, I mean, it's like 85% of these games come down to one score. So if you win in those instances, you're going to win, no matter how what it looks like to get there. Kevin O'Connell and this staff, they've won those games. So I guess you can get mad at it. You can bring it up as a potential point of regression, and eventually maybe that does happen because life is uncertain. But at some point, I do think when you win the amount of games they have in these instances, you just find yourself saying, like, you have faith in that group in those sequences. So that's how I'll end it. That's kind of the point that I'll end it on. Thank you guys for being here. This is the Alec Lewis Show, kind of a full-on runabout of what that was Monday night and what might be moving forward. Appreciate you guys being here. If you're new on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, you can rate and review and do all that good stuff. We're presented by First Resource Bank. We have stories nonstop at theathletic.com, so stay locked in for that. You can find me on the socials at Alec Lewis Show, @_Lewis. But with that, for episode 111, that'll do it. We will talk to you guys very, very soon.